This is the sound of the AI versus AI battlefield officially opening, and the defense has a lot of catching up to do. I'm Dennis, and welcome back to CyberSecureOT, your weekly deep dive into the escalating war for cyber dominance. By now, you should have realized that 2025 was the dawn of a new cyber era, not just as an update, but as a total evolution in virtual reality. We're talking about AI-driven attacks, critical infrastructure being redefined, and a policy battle that will shape who is ultimately responsible for the nation's digital defense. Today, I'm dividing this briefing into 4 critical segments. First is the policy battleground. I break down the furious debate over the nation's communication backbone following the devastating Salt Typhoon attack. The question is, will a binding, legally enforceable security mandate be necessary for carriers? Or is a flexible, collaborative partnership sufficient to defend against nation-state actors? Second is the AI threat shift. I detail the terrifying arrival of agentic warfare, exemplified by the Claude Code campaign, where Chinese state actors used an autonomous AI agent to execute nearly 90% of their tactical cyber operations. Experts agree the only way to match this force multiplier is with AI cyber defense. Third is the espionage files. I pull back the curtain on 2 sophisticated campaigns: APT31's masterful use of the trusted cloud services like Yandex Cloud and Microsoft OneDrive to operate for years inside of Russia, and the unprecedented intelligence leak that tore the veil off of Iran's elite Charming Kitten unit, exposing their global infrastructure. Wrapping it all up with the defense imperative, I discuss how digital defenses must evolve now that the data center, the cloud campus, is the new critical infrastructure. Plus, I expand on the reality by including the complexity crisis for managed service providers and an example of an urgent flaw in industrial control systems that serves as a ready-made denial-of-service attack vector. Stay with me, the battlefield is digital and the stakes have never been higher. I begin with the story that dominated the headlines, the major policy debate over the security of our nation's communication backbone following the devastating Salt Typhoon attack. The Salt Typhoon incident was not a disruption. It was a deep, persistent espionage operation carried out by Chinese state-sponsored actors. They infiltrated major U.S. telecom providers like AT&T and Verizon over a period of several years, accessing sensitive data and reportedly gaining access to phone call and text message records. The hackers exploited weaknesses like unpatched vulnerabilities and misconfigurations in network and edge devices. In response, the previous administration's FCC had issued a declaratory ruling, essentially using the CALEA law, that is, the Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act. You can hear that out. The Communication Assistance for Law Enforcement Act. Let's continue. To require telecom carriers to secure their networks from unlawful access. This move paved the way for demanding detailed cybersecurity risk management plans and annual compliance certifications. The intent was to treat general network security as a legal obligation. However, the current FCC leadership is moving to rescind that ruling. The FCC's argument for reversal is to claim the original ruling was based on a flawed legal analysis that exceeded their authority under CLEA, according to the current administration. They also argue that the rules were inflexible and ambiguous, preferring an agile and collaborative approach, noting that carriers have allegedly agreed to strengthen security. This policy reversal faces strenuous opposition from lawmakers, notably one lawmaker named Senator Maria Cantwell, who chairs the Senate Commerce Committee. She argues that the rollback would undermine the FCC's ability to hold carriers accountable. Furthermore, she pointed to the industry's failure to detect the Salt Typhoon hacks in the first place, stating that simply relying on collaboration is not enough. This debate boils down to a fundamental question for critical infrastructure. Is a legally binding, enforceable security mandate necessary, Or is a flexible collaborative partnership with industry sufficient to defend against a nation-state threat actor? The outcome will shape the future of governance for this vital sector. Moving right along, this is our next topic, and 2024 was the year we talked about AI. 2025, well, that's the year we saw it weaponized at scale. This year marked a fundamental, terrifying shift in offensive capability, exemplified by the Claude Code campaign. I'm continuing on this topic from last week as the investigation unfolds. Here's a quick recap. A report from the AI company Anthropic confirmed that a Chinese state-sponsored group managed to manipulate the Claude Code AI model. This wasn't just AI for advice, it was used as an autonomous agent. The AI's role included this. The attackers jailbroke the model and used it to execute an estimated 80 to 90% of tactical operations. This included conducting reconnaissance in minutes, writing its own exploit code, and handling credential harvesting and data exfiltration. The speed and scale are insane. Former NSA Chief Paul Nakasone highlighted the unprecedented speed and scale, noting that AI worked at a pace impossible for human teams, making thousands of requests per second. This dramatically lowers the bar for conducting sophisticated, multi-stage cyber attacks. The experts' conclusion is unanimous. The only way to match this offensive force multiplier is with AI cyber defense. The defense mandate is clear. If you are a CISO, listen up. We are expected to see massive pushes for agentic cyber defensives deployed against these agentic cyber attacks. Defensive AI will need to detect high-volume automated attack patterns, automate threat detection and incident response at machine speed, and continuously red team an organization's own infrastructure. Make sure you do that safely. The Chinese use of AI was a loud, clear alarm bell signaling the undeniable arrival of the AI versus AI battlefield. Next on my list is global espionage. Beyond the headline AI attacks, persistent and sophisticated human-led espionage campaigns continue to evolve, demonstrating a mastery of stealth and social engineering. APT-31's cloud cover in Russia. This is the China-linked APT-31 group, also known as Violet Typhoon or Red Curious, executed a highly stealthy espionage campaign that went undetected for years inside of Russia's critical IT sector. APT-31 weaponized legitimate services for their command and control, using widely accepted cloud services like Yandex Cloud and Microsoft OneDrive for communication and data exfiltration. Their traffic looked like normal file synchronization. Custom arsenal was developed for this. They deployed sophisticated custom tools, including sharpchrome.exe to steal passwords from browsers, stickynoteextract.exe to steal from Windows Sticky Notes database, and VT-Chatter, a tool that used base64 encoded comments on a text file hosted on VirusTotal as a covert two-way command and control channel. What was interesting to me is that they actually named the files so that they were recognizable. Charming Kitten exposed. Meanwhile, an unprecedented intelligence leak tore the veil off Iran's elite cyber warfare unit, otherwise known as Charming Kitten or APT-35. The leak's depth is impressive. The leak exposed the names, photos, and access credentials of the Iranian operatives, detailed their global hacking infrastructure, and most critically, documented their operations against highly sensitive Israeli sites, including military installations and arms manufacturers. Their modus operandi went like this. Charming Kitten is infamous for their patient, methodical social engineering. They pose as journalists, academics, or conference organizers to lure in their targets. The exposure reveals a high-maturing, formalized cyber offensive apparatus within the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. These two cases, APT-31 and 35 attack, underscore a clear theme. The perimeter is dead. Threat actors are weaponizing trusted cloud services, even against other threat actors, and using sophisticated social engineering to achieve long-term, persistent access. Now on to my fourth topic. The escalating threats have brought new targets and severe vulnerabilities into focus, fundamentally changing what we consider critical infrastructure and how we must defend it all. It starts by redefining the critical infrastructure. According to analysis by security experts, modern conflict has evolved with the emerging battlefield now digital and borderless. The United States has recognized that algorithmic power is national power, and adversaries are relentlessly probing our systems. The new targets look like these. The most crucial shift is the redefinition of critical infrastructure. It's no longer just the physical power plant. It's the data center that runs it. Since so much of our infrastructure management has migrated to off-site, hyperscale cloud campuses, these digital fortresses, run by companies like AWS, Google, and Microsoft, are now the prime targets. However, the challenge persists. Since a staggering 50 to 85% of U.S. critical infrastructure is privately owned, defense requires a fusion of physical and cutting-edge AI-driven cyber defense tools. This means moving beyond simple firewalls to AI-driven threat hunting, AI-driven protection, protecting your physical fiber optic cables, and proactive monitoring of the dark web. The crisis is amplified for our managed service providers. The sheer complexity of defending all this infrastructure is leading to a crisis for MSPs and also the managed security service providers, or MSSPs, who manage security for most small and mid-sized businesses. The paradox exists because MSPs currently rely on a best-of-breed approach. They piece together an average of maybe 8 to 15 separate security tools per client. This tool proliferation creates fragmented visibility and is a security vulnerability in itself. This leads to a staggering 70+% of security initiatives failing to achieve their intended improvements. A unified security solution is needed for these MSSPs. The industry consensus is that a pivot to a unified, AI-driven platform is necessary. Platforms that are unified should be built for service providers to demonstrate the ability to automate the handling of security incidents, deliver a reduction in false positives, and achieve threat detection in minutes. Consolidation is no longer optional. It's necessary for efficiency and effective security. But if you were paying attention, you noticed those were security operations in the unified platform. So we also need to make sure that we have really robust role-based access. An example of why this is necessary includes a critical vulnerability that was a red alert this week. Vulnerabilities are released weekly, but as we see a trend towards more cloud-connected, MSP-supported, and highly connected technologies, I thought it prudent to provide an example of a control system vulnerability. I noticed a red alert regarding the GIC Lynx Plus gateway. This is commonly used for supervisory control and protocol conversion of connections to and remote access to control systems. That's what those protocol conversions and supervisory control systems mean. These are common types of platforms that connect traditional operational technologies to information technologies. So CISA issued a critical security alert about 4 severe flaws. Out of those 4, one was a CVSS score of 10. CVSS is the Common Vulnerability Scoring System. 10 is the highest score you can get on that system, being the worst case scenario. This means it was the most exploitable, and it has been exploited. The most alarming flaw is that there is an unauthenticated device reset. Unauthenticated means you don't have to log in or have permissions to reset the device. And this is the one that scored the perfect 10.0 on that scale. This means an attacker on the network can remotely reset the device without any credentials. This is creating a ready-made denial of service attack. So, now what is the danger? Given that these gateways are widely deployed in manufacturing and critical infrastructure environments, the possibility of unauthorized system access and devastating denial of service attacks is severe. Additionally, it was noted that the lack of vendor engagement from the company General Industrial Controls in coordinating a fix for the Lynx Plus gateway means organizations must prioritize immediate defensive measures, such as network segmentation and severely restricting internet-facing access. Imagine trying to manage this as an MSP or an MSSP for the control system networks that you support, if you do support those networks, and not having a clear way to detect, monitor anything that's taking place. And then the sophisticated threat actors that I was talking about earlier who can go on for years undetected in networks. That is a big pill to swallow. And that brings us to the end of today's deep dive into the escalating war for cyber dominance. The message is clear. The AI versus AI battlefield is officially open, and the defense imperative demands an immediate and decisive shift in strategy. You've heard the debate over whether collaboration is enough or if a legally enforceable security mandate is needed for carriers. I say they'll listen if it's required. If not, they'll treat it as optional. You've been briefed on the terrifying arrival of agentic warfare, where an autonomous AI agent executed nearly 90% of the tactical operations in the Claude Code campaign. You might want to invest in AI defense companies. Hey, maybe that's where cybersecurity investments should be made. You now know that the perimeter is dead. Threat actors like APT31 have been weaponizing trusted cloud services for years without anyone knowing it. There's nothing you can do to stop that. And finally, I established that the data center, the cloud campus, is the new critical infrastructure, facing threats like the severe unauthenticated device reset flaw in the industrial control system device that I mentioned earlier. The future of national security hinges on the speed and effectiveness of getting this done. The battlefield is digital, and the stakes have never been higher. So this week, don't only secure your home Wi-Fi. Go check on your local data center. Just take a trip down the street. Tell the data center, I love you. And maybe give its physical fiber optic cables a little protective pat. That'll make them work better. Because in this new era, that's the power plant. I'm Dennis, and you've been listening to CyberSecureOT. We'll talk next week.